learning from other photographers is how important it is to create expansions in your pictures to give a smaller depth of field and have just overall great quality in your picture. So that's something I did with this photo and will be doing from now on. Overall, this picture is a composite of around 30 or more pictures in one final picture and took me over 4 hours to edit. The first thing I did was blacken the upper half background of this picture by selecting areas with the polygonal selection tool and just filling in those areas with the paintbrush tool. Right now I'm adding on a new dress flip layer and I'm just using the warp tool to stretch out the corners of the dress to give it more flow. Then I'm expanding the canvas by going to image and canvas size so I can make the picture larger to make room for the other pictures. I'm adding on another dress flip layer and I'm going to composite that over the first dress flip layer that we added on. Then I'm going to create a layer mask and use the paintbrush tool with black on top to blend the two layers together. Finally, I'm going to bring in a third dress flip layer to complete the dress flip a little bit more, and I'm going to composite that into the picture. I took about 30 pictures of my legs at different angles, and there was only one picture that I really liked. So I'm going to bring that onto the main image and transform the selection and rotate it so that my feet are pointing upwards. Now I'm just cleaning up the image and using a small soft paintbrush to fill in the background space. To complete the expansion, I pointed the camera down and took a picture of the floor, and I'm going to bring that onto the main image to create the panoramic. I'm also going to make the selection larger, then create a layer mask and erase away where I don't want the selection to appear. Then I'm going to use another picture where my hair happened to fall in front of the black cabinet space behind me, and I'm going to select that hair and bring it onto the main image, make it larger, and use a warp tool to distort the edges. I'm also going to apply a few curve layers to my hair selection so that it blends in with the rest of my hair. I also tried something I've never done before where I use a backdrop, in this case a bright blue towel, and flip my hair in front of it so that it's easier to cut and paste my hair selection onto the main image. I also knew that I wanted to use a large open book as sort of like a bed for my body, but wasn't quite sure how I wanted the book to look, so at first I tried using one book photo and didn't like how my body went with it, so I chose another book photo where the pages were flipping and decided to balance my body on that, which looked a lot more natural. And then I just created a layer mask and started erasing away at the selection where I didn't want it to appear, mostly with a hard brush around 70 or 80%. And then I copied and pasted some of the layers of where I was burning the book pages on fire and just kind of placed them around the frame of the picture, trying to find out the best place to put them. Next, I took different layers where the book pages were grouped together on the floor and copied and pasted those layers onto the main image and used curves to brighten them up and match the tones, and just erased away at the certain places of the layers where I wanted it to blend in with the rest of the floor a little bit more. I also took some of the book pages individually and dropped them in front of the camera, and then I copied and pasted those pictures onto the main image as well. Now I'm just cleaning up the image a little bit and also using the clone tool to Photoshop out my thumbs over the flying book pages. To soften the lines where the black background meets the wooden floor, I'm going to take my clone tool at 50% opacity and just brush over those lines so that it looks a little bit more natural and so that they blend together a little bit more. To add in a natural looking shadow underneath the large book, I'm going to create a selection around the book, hit copy and paste to create a new layer, and then double click on the box portion of the layer to bring up a menu of options, and I'm going to mark the very last option where it says drop shadow. I'm going to check the box that says drop shadow and then play around with the settings, and then I'm going to use the burn tool at 50% exposure, and I'm going to add in a thinner shadow closer to the line of the book, and I'm just going to keep using the burn tool on the pages, around the book where it meets the floor, and I'm just going to keep adding in more depth. And then I'm going to go in and create a selection around the corners of the floor and create a vignette. And then I'm going to add some motion blur to the pages to really make it seem like it's flying. And I'm just going to keep adding motion blur to some of the layers. And I'm also going to add a little bit of motion blur on my dress and on my hair, and also where the pages are really large on the book. And as you can tell, I'm constantly adding on more shadow with the burn tool because I'm never quite satisfied. And honestly, I've had a few problems in the past where I don't add enough shadow, so I'm careful not to repeat those mistakes. And now I'm just adding on a lot of curve layers. And the great thing about curve layers is they really add like a more artistic feel to your picture without really doing that much, just by adjusting the highlights and the color tones of the image. Now I'm just going in with the dodge tool at 15%, and I'm just brightening up my face, my arms, my chest, and legs to add more light and highlight to the image. And then I'm going to make a curve selection and just add a little bit more shadow and darkness underneath the area of the book a little bit more. Then I'm going to go to image adjustments, then I'm going to hit replace color to change the colors of the background to a more purple magenta color. Unfortunately, the applications on my computer literally take up the entire space on my internal hard drive, so I couldn't screen record the rest of the process. But the only other changes I made were taking a few textures and changing the blending mode of the textures to a screen mode, and then darkening the layers, which is how I got the stars / space effect in the black backdrop. I also added a highlight of yellowish light to my hair and the space surrounding my hair to make it seem like the fire was lighting up my hair. And then I went in and added a few layers of levels, selective color adjustment layers, and added about 6 layers of noise reduction to my skin to give a more painterly feel. I hope I was able to teach you a few new things in this tutorial. Please feel free to imitate this exact picture if it helps you learn how to Photoshop. I can't wait to make another tutorial for you. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video, and I'll see you guys next time.